Here we got the Catch Can kit from Mishimoto that we're going to be installing, obviously, and it comes with all kinds of different stuff. Got some advertising. Here's the actual Catch Can, some clamps, fittings, and this is a bracket. This is the bracket that holds it. What else we got in here? More hose. More hose. Get out the way. Get out the way, ho. Ignore me, I'm retarded right now. Oh, this is the drain kit right there that I bought. So I can drain the Catch Can from right in the bottom of the bumper instead of messing around under the hood. That way when I do my oil change, I just turn the little spigot, drain it into the oil dump, and be done with it. So, let's start putting this in. We're going to start off by putting the fittings onto our can. Since I have the drain, I'm going to remove this plug in the bottom. This requires a 8mm Allen. We're going to use Right Stuff to seal the threads. This stuff has never failed me before. These cans have failed me before because since they moved to this style push deal, it's been junk. I wish they would have kept it as the caulk gun style, but it's alright. So I put a little bit on half the threads. Then just screw these in, and this is a 17mm, so once you go to tighten it down, just use the 17, tighten it. Here are the top two installed, and they're flush with the body, and now we're going to do the bottom. If you buy the Catch Can Pet Cut Drain Kit, then this is what you get. So, inside is hose, obviously, and then you have these hose clamps, a valve, and a fitting. So this is made for the bottom. Then you have a drain. And this drain is made to go wherever you want to put it towards the bottom of the vehicle for easy drain access. And it's just a ball valve, so that's inline is open, across is closed. And this bottom one, we're actually not going to go down flush. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the amount of threads, then I'm only going to tighten it that far down. Because if I go too far, this is going to stick up past the bottom floor. So then when I go to drain it, I'm not draining all of it because this is up. So then there'll be a pool of oil, whatever distance this is up in the air, there's going to be a pool of oil of that depth in the bottom of this can. So I'm just going to tighten it enough to get this flush with the bottom on the inside of the can. For this job, I'm going to use a caliper. I'm going to use the bottom end, and I'm just going to put this in to where the bottom is touching. So, looks about there. Take it out of millimeters because no one likes millimeters. We're at 340 thousandths of an inch. So I'm going to mark the fitting, wherever I just put the fitting, I'm going to mark the end of the fitting at 340 thousandths, and then when I screw it in, I'm going to stop at that mark. So after marking 340 thousandths of an inch, I put tape to mark that 340 thousandths line. And then I screwed it into that tape. Now I'm going to wait the 24 hours to let this cure so that it won't unscrew at all from vibrations or anything. And then I'll move on with this process. Out of that small bag, there was 2 washers and 2 Allen head bolts. So just put them in finger tight because there is a little bit of movement. So that might be useful. We will find out here shortly. Take your 13mm deep socket, remove the ground, and then tape up the ground with electrical tape. Unplug the sensor down underneath the intake. It's got a little tab you squeeze and then pull it out. Unplug this map sensor. There's this green clip on this vacuum line. You need to push it from both sides so it goes down like that, and then you can wiggle it off. To remove the vacuum line from the side, once you pull this green clip, you need to push down here on this and it spreads it open, and then it'll come off. Take off the vacuum line from all the spots and then move it out of your way. Now remove all the intake manifold bolts. Use a 7mm socket here to remove the intercooler piping from the intake manifold. Remove the sensor on the back of the intake. If you're running the factory sound symposer, make sure you pull the hose off. If you're running a symposer block off with an external blow-off valve, you need to remove this vacuum line. Now wiggle out your intake manifold from the intercooler piping. This vacuum line here needs to come off. To remove this from the back of the intake, you just squeeze these 2 tabs. It stretches out the 2 clips, and then you wiggle it and it'll come off the back of the intake. Take a panel popper, remove this plug from the intake manifold. Take this same panel popper, remove this plug from the bottom of the intake. Next, we need to remove the throttle body cable. So there's a little red tab on the bottom, which I don't think you can see very well. You pull that down first, then you push the clip and it'll come off. So this little red tab will be pushed in, you just have to pull it out. Unclip this holder from that line. Then we're going to take flathead, and what we're going to do is remove this hard line from this green fitting here. Next, we want to do the same technique and remove this connector from this hose. Grab this part number first. This is the hose with this 90 degree or 180 degree bend. Insert the 90 degree fitting that goes on the back of the intake with the hose curving around this way, and then tighten your worm gear clamp. Grab this part number and we're going to install this now. Now take this hose with the 45 degree bend, you're going to put that onto the green fitting, and you're going to want it to the 45 to angle down, and then you're going to tighten the worm clamp on there, and then push the green fitting all the way parallel with the block. Take the other end of the hose and route it underneath here, and just pull it up here for now, out of the way. Take the fitting, the 90 degree angle fitting hose, wrap the non-fitted hose under the same place, and then just let it sit right here. The ends of these two hoses, you're gonna go down between the starter, this hose, and you want it to go down right next to the transmission on the bottom. Once those hoses are rerouted, go ahead, just reinstall the intake and do the opposite steps that I showed you how to take it off. In my case, I had to replace the vacuum line that went from my block off to my blow-off valve because it was starting to get super soft and nasty. If you need to do that, now is a great time to do that. You want to tighten down these two with a 2.5mm Allen head. Jack up the car. You're going to want to put 2 jack stands under it so you don't die. We're going to remove the underside panel. So this is horrible placement for these fittings. So you have to jam the hoses in between this intercooler pipe and the wiring above it, because where this catch can bolts in, these fittings are like right in between it. Very, very bad. It should have been, you know, more like here. That would have been perfect right there. Take a 16mm and a 15mm, tighten down this bracket to the transmission right there. So what I did to take some pressure off of the hoses was I loosened this intercooler pipe and I pushed it in, and that dropped the top down some by pushing the intercooler pipe over. I do not recommend the petcock drain for any Focus ST owners. If this catch can was towards the top, it would work beautiful because the hose would just come down and you could drain it. But this thing's already close to the bottom, and so if I put the drain on the end of here, it would be hanging out under the car, and so that was a pain in the ass. So I took the hose, came across, used some zip ties just to hold it. So now whenever I go to do the oil change and take the filter out, I just cut these 2 zip ties because they're cheap anyways, drain it into the same oil drain, and the job will be done. And so with the lever going horizontal with the hose, that means it's draining, so you want to have it at a 90-degree turn. And so I'm going to angle it like this so that even if this thing's moving a little bit or whatever and it touches the bottom, it's not gonna, you know, if it touches the bottom, it could possibly turn it. Once you have everything tightened down and this valve closed, then you can go ahead and shut everything. Like I said before, if you own a ST, don't buy this drain. Since I have it, I'm just going to use it, but it's kind of pointless because you can just use the Allen head and pull the plug and it makes it easy. Other than that, everything is pretty good. The only other complaint is where these hoses have to go on the top. But other than that, I would probably say give it a 8 out of 10. So till next time guys, wrench on.